takes place exactly 1 week ago. Khalil is in a deep state of depression after the events of Batman v Superman. Khalil, what's wrong, buddy?
Batman v Superman. It was such a mess.
Come on, you gotta review another movie. For the people. For the city.
Whoa, both their moms' name were Martha.
What about Civil War?
I can't do it anymore, Batman. I can't get hurt again.
Why are you still wearing a beanie in your sleep?
I don't know. Maybe it's just like a safety blanket thing.
Alright, I ran out of patience.
What?
On the roof! Hey everyone.
Alright. Let's do this.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Captain America Civil War was directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, and it stars basically every single one of the Marvel Cinematic characters, aside from, like, 2. It'd probably be easier to just name off the characters who aren't in this movie. And even though most of you have probably already seen the movie, this is going to be a totally spoiler-free review. And this one, there's a lot to talk about in this movie, so I think later on I might even do a spoiler-filled review. But this one right here, this one that you're watching right now, spoiler-free, no spoilers. So feel free, feel welcomed. Here you are, Slacker Reviews. Come on in. So as I'm sure you all know, Civil War features superhero against superhero in an epic battle. But here's the reason behind it. The events of Civil War takes place about a year after Age of Ultron. When Ultron did the whole lifting the island up and then dropping it down thing. So after so many huge attacks involving the Avengers, the United Nations decides it would be best that they were regulated. Meaning the UN decides when and where to assemble the Avengers. To instill this, each member must sign the Sokovia Accords or be considered a criminal, like a super criminal. Captain America refuses to sign the Accords because what if they're not called to assemble somewhere that needs them to be assembled? Or what if they send them to assemble at a place that really doesn't need them to assemble? Like, what if they use them for bad purposes? But Tony Stark is all for it because he's like, you know what? I made some mistakes in the past. I created Ultron. Some of these things that caused people to die happened because of me. We need to be put in check. So the group takes sides on the matters. There's Team Cap and there's Team Iron Man. Iron Man says, let's sign the Accords. Cap says, no, we need to be free. So this pins friend against friend. Super friend against friend in a huge, epic, awesome, really cool battle. And to make things worse, there's these terrorist attacks that keep happening. And coincidentally, Winter Soldier, Bucky, he's seen at just about all these terrorist attacks. So he's thrown into the mix. Cap is trying to find him, bring him home, change him, and Stark is trying to bring him in. So let's start this off with talking about the 2 brand new power players. Chadwick Boseman makes his debut as Black Panther in this movie. And oh man, oh my god, was he perfect as Black Panther. I've always been somewhat of a fan of his character. Like, I know of his background, but not a lot of people know about Black Panther. Not a lot of people know about his origins and stuff. This movie did a really good job at making people who were new to him excited for who this guy is without going too deep into his backstory. Like, it wasn't an origin story for Black Panther, but he was in it just enough to get you excited for him. And he was just portrayed really, really well. And he had a really nice story arc in this movie, too. I was very surprised at how much screen time Black Panther got and how important he was to the story. And now the guy everyone's talking about. Tom Holland's debut as your friendly neighborhood Spoderman. Though he's not in it much, he really steals the show. Now, some people say that he's too young to play Peter Parker. But here's the thing. Peter Parker starts out as a teenager in the comics. God forbid we have a teenager playing a teenager. And having him start out this young in the MCU is a really cool idea because now we get to watch him grow. We get to watch him mature throughout the next few years until the MCU is finally done, which will give him a really cool character arc. Like, we can watch this character build, and I'm really excited to see where he goes because he portrayed Spider-Man really, really well. Tom Holland incorporated everything you want Spider-Man to be. When he's not in the suit, he's this nerdy kid, but when he is in the suit, he's quick, he's quippy, and he is still somewhat of a nerdy kid when he's in the Spider-Man suit, which was really cool to see. He was fanboying out during certain scenes where you were fanboying out. He was the most relatable character in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, now let's talk about who picks which side and why, because there's been some complaints about it. A lot of people are complaining that Iron Man sides with the government, that he wants people to sign the Accords, because they're like, oh, Iron Man would never do that, he's always been a rebel, he would never sign the Accords, oh, this is bull, why is he changing all of a sudden? Here's the thing though, it's not all of a sudden. This is character building. Yeah, Iron Man from 8 years ago would have never signed the Accords, but this Iron Man is 8 years older than that one. He's matured so much in that time. What Marvel has done so well is build a character. He's been through a lot, and he feels guilty about a lot of things that he's done in the past. So he's matured. He realizes what he's done has been wrong, and he needs redemption. He needs it. He feels that the only way to achieve this redemption is to go through the Sokovia Accords and get everyone else to sign it, to be in check. I think Tony Stark's character throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been the best character arc in like any movie franchise ever. Because sure, James Bond has been around for years and years and years and years, but we never see him grow as a character until recently. You know, the Daniel Craig Bond, he kind of has his ups and downs. But really, that's like a 20-year franchise, and we're only just now seeing him feel regret, seeing that character feel something. With Tony Stark, Iron Man, he's really grown as a person. These events are affecting him as it would a real person, and we're watching him mature. And it's really awesome to see in a movie because it's never really been done in a franchise before. And Robert Downey Jr. really performed in this movie. Oh my god. Because this could have easily just been another paycheck for him. He could have just came in, did his Iron Man thing, left. But he really gave it his all. He really gave a really good Tony Stark performance, which 8 years into doing these movies and he can still give us top-notch performances, that's awesome, man. That's honestly really cool. And some will complain about Captain America's choice, that he sides against the government. It's like, well, he's Captain America. He should be with America. He's the all-American hero. But here's the thing. He's also aged. He's also matured. He's seen how corrupt a government can be. He's seen how corrupt politics can really be with the events of Winter Soldier. So he knows the government at its worst, and he realizes, no, we shouldn't be put in their hands. We shouldn't be put in anyone's hands but our own. So of course he's going to side against the government. It only makes sense. He's growing as a character, as are all these characters, which is just, it's really cool. He's also trying desperately to get the Bucky that he knows and loves out of the Winter Soldier. He's the only thing that he has left of his past in the world that he used to know. He's the only thing that is familiar to him, so he's just trying really hard to get this guy back. And Chris Evans just did a top-notch performance as Cap in this movie. Like, you could see the struggle, because yes, he is fighting for what he thinks is right. He really is. And that confliction of going against his government to do what he thinks is right is just an awesome character arc. It's just, Marvel, you're doing it right, man. You're doing it right. And it's really hard not to compare this movie to Batman v Supes, because this movie did everything that Batman v Superman was kind of trying to do, but it did it so much better because it actually performed. Just about all of the characters had really good motives. You felt for everyone in this movie. In this movie, you understood both sides of this argument. You were conflicted yourself. You were like, oh, well, that's a valid point. Oh, that's also a valid point. I kinda want to go with you. Ooh, but that's also a really valid point. Also, without going into too much spoiler territory, Daniel Gruel as Baron Zemo has got to be probably the second best Marvel villain, aside from Loki, in the entire MCU. Because this was, like, really the only villain that will stay with you, that you will remember, because he had actual motives. Granted, you don't get to learn those motives until way later on in the movie, but still, the fact that he had motives, that you were even on his side a little bit, was really cool, because it shows that Marvel is listening to us. They know that we don't like these villains that they keep just pumping out and killing, pumping out and killing, pumping out and killing. So Daniel Gruel, you did good. Marvel, you did good with this new villain. And really, all of the other characters in this movie were handled extremely well. All of them had really good motives to pick which side they were on. Except for two. There were two characters that I will explain in the spoiler-filled review that I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like their motives could have been explained just a little better, maybe in like 1 or 2 sentences of dialogue, and then boom, we're done with that. But it didn't give us those 2 sentences, so it just kind of didn't make sense to me, knowing these characters for so long, that they picked these sides. But again, I'm nitpicking at this point. The Russo brothers, who also directed The Winter Soldier, really knew how to make this ensemble work. And these guys worked on shows such as Arrested Development and Community, which are 2 really great ensemble TV shows. And I really do believe those 2 shows were practice for them doing this, like an ensemble flick on this grand of a scale. They also handled action surprisingly well. For comedy directors, the action in this movie was really well done. They really got to show their chops with like their grander scale battles. Those were extremely well done. I will say there was a weird mix though. Like, most of the action scenes were shot really well and were some of the coolest action scenes I've ever seen. But there were some scenes where the camera was just too shaky. Like, I don't like shaky cam, I hate it. There were some action scenes that overutilized it, and there was quick cutting. I don't know what happened there. I feel like there was just 2 scenes that they realized they didn't shoot that well, so they just shook up the camera and cut really quickly. I don't know. But again, that's just a nitpick in an otherwise great film. In the long run, this movie makes me extremely excited for what these guys are going to do with Infinity Wars, which is going to be huge. Infinity Wars is going to be insane. It's like, what, 63 characters they said were going to be in those 2 movies? That's a lot of people, man. That's a lot of characters to keep track of. And this is, again, practice for something bigger that they're going to do. I'm so excited to see what these guys are going to do. The only big problem that I had with this movie were some of the visual effects. Like, for the most part, the effects were done really well, and they like to shoot practically, and you can see that. And the CGI in this movie was pretty well done when it was utilized. With Iron Man, during some scenes when he wasn't wearing his helmet, it was Robert Downey Jr.'s head on the Iron Man suit, it just felt awkward. It felt weird, and it took me out of it. Like, normally I would have been okay with it, but when it was utilized in these really dramatic scenes that should have had me extremely invested. And when you take me out of those really dramatic scenes and you make me think about that instead of what's going on the screen, that's when I gotta dock you a little bit. I gotta dock you just a little bit because of that. Because I was thinking too hard about how funky that looked during very dramatic scenes that I should have been 100% invested in. But other than the funky Iron Man thing, the effects were done pretty well. Also, it was the Russo brothers' first time dealing with something like Iron Man, so I'll let it fly just a little bit, but still. What really shined for me in this movie was the script. This has got to be the best written Marvel movie that has ever come out since the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because it really feels like Marvel is listening to our complaints. It feels like they're hearing what we're saying, and they're like, okay, we'll fix it. Sorry. Because they're really the first company to try this cinematic universe where each movie ties into each other in some way, and doing it for this long and they're still going, that's admirable. So they are still building on it. They are still figuring out the kinks. And it's great that they're listening to us and not just making these movies for the cash, that they're making these movies for the fans. This movie probably has the highest number of superheroes in one film, but yet it didn't feel too crowded, just like Age of Ultron did. This movie didn't feel like just a really long trailer for each one of these characters' movies. It felt like its own contained story, which was amazing. And again, without spoilers, and I'll talk about this a little more in the spoiler-filled review, it didn't have like an ending. And none of the Marvel movies really do. And that's a problem that I have, that these Marvel movies don't have like an ending. See, as a comic book fan, I understand. I understand that this is just a continuous story, and I'll get an ending eventually. I'll get an ending probably by the end of Infinity Wars. But right now, as a movie fan, I'm just like, a movie needs an ending. To make a good movie, it needs beginning, middle, and end. And if it doesn't have an end, it throws me off, and it makes me feel funky. But it's just something I have to live with. You know, I get it. I get what they're doing. It's just something that bothers me just a little bit. But aside from that, this might be my favorite Marvel movie, other than Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy is just a really good time. The awesome thing about Civil War was it made me feel something again. To be honest with you, I was getting a little bored with the Marvel movies. It just kind of seemed to be this same thing over and over. But in this movie, I was actually scared for some of these characters. I was worried about someone dying. For the first time in any of these movies, I felt like someone was going to die. And it was amazing too, because I really wanted to see these characters fight. It was something that was really entertaining to me to see these characters fight. But then it hit me. One of these guys is going to win. Which means one of these guys is going to lose. And I didn't want anyone to lose in this. Which was something awesome. That says something about Marvel. That says that they're doing it right. And where Batman v Superman tried to just pin these two characters that we wanted to see fight together, just threw it together. They didn't have any fun with it. They didn't have any fun with Batman and Superman fighting. It just felt like this thing that they had to do. But the major fight scene in this movie, in Civil War, was amazing. It was a lot of fun. This is a thoroughly entertaining movie. Like, it was a roller coaster of emotions, and I loved it. This was a solid flick. I'm going to give Captain America Civil War an 8.9 out of 10. Thank you for watching. You've probably already seen this movie, so this review might not help you out much, but it was fun to talk about it. I like talking about this movie. I like talking to you guys, because you guys are my friends. Do look out for the spoiler-filled video. That's gonna be a fun time, because I gotta talk about everything. Khalil's not on a leash anymore in the spoiler video. I don't know where that came from. You're probably gonna get a lot more of that in the spoiler video, so look out. So once again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, tell your friends. And another special thanks to Disc Replay. You guys are awesome. And in case you didn't know, Disc Replay is a resale shop in my area. They sell used movies, video games. I think I saw a microwave there once. They do a little bit of everything, and they're really cool. They've been really cool to me, so go check them out if you're in the Quad City area. They're good people. And remember, as always, watch movies, my friends.
Ain't shady, baby, I'm hot, like the prodigal son.
Hey, Batman. You wanna hear a secret? I'm gonna do a spoiler-filled review for this one.
What? You already said that.
Yeah, but I talk about it after the credits. Just makes it a little cooler.
That's just stupid.
Well, your left hand's free, and your right hand grip, with another left hand watches right and slip. Schwartz is gone. Oh.